It's going.
Yay. I'm amazed by all the technology it takes nowadays, like to stream and stuff like that.
I know. And this is when I had a handle on it because before. But we're okay, we're live. So hi everyone. Welcome. This is 1 million cups. The first one of the year. It took us a while. We were going to do it last year, and now we're last week. But we all had the winter storm, and I know Esther didn't have power, and it was just going to be a mess if we tried to do it last week. So we're back. We're here this week. We have Dawn and Esther. Esther is from San Antonio, and we actually seen her present a couple times in our community. And Dawn is over established in Dallas, but has presented in like many different 1 million clubs across the country that I've seen in his profile. And for those of you that don't know, 1 Million Cups is a platform that we use for entrepreneurs to come together and present, share their ideas, and get some feedback from the community. And that's what we're going to try to do today. So we just ask that everyone be respectful, and any comment that's going to be made towards the presentation, that just be mindful that Dawn and Esther put themselves in a place of a vulnerable space for you to kind of comment on their precious idea. I think they're both coming up on 5 years, or I know Esther is, and Dawn as well. Yeah. So this is kind of like a big moment for them and a grow moment for them. So I'm just glad that you guys made it through the 5 year stage. And we'll start with you, Esther. If you need to share, you can share your screen. And if you want to make a comment, you can use the chat or raise your hand on Zoom. On Facebook, just comment and I'll relay those questions at the end of the presentation.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm so happy to see a lot of my family, my sister on here, and some of my advocates, Alba and Zan, joining us. And it's always great to communicate and to connect with you. And I'm really just excited to be part of 1 Million Cups today, because I feel like going into this year, I needed to kind of explain where we've had to pivot this last year, and what we're going to do kind of moving forward, because we are living in a new world. So first of all, Lola, who is Lola? That is my mom, Loss of Life Advocates. That was her name. And basically, in a nutshell, we help families before, during, and after a loss. And I'll go into a little bit more of that in sharing with you about what we do. Let me just make sure I can click down. So a little bit about me before we kind of proceed. I'm born and raised in San Antonio. I am a graduate of the University of Texas at San Antonio with a degree in communication. I'm certified for grief through the grief recovery method. I'm certified with DISC behavioral. It's a unique certification because you can actually go in and work with different behavioral styles in an organization. And it really helps me with family dynamics when I'm working through some grief with families. I have 20 plus years in the insurance industry, specifically in employee benefits. I'm a member of the Friends of Hospice here in San Antonio, a member of the Downtown Rotary, a board member of the Hospice Palliative Nurses Association, a board member of the South Central Texas Hospice Veteran Partnership, and a board member of the San Antonio Area Health Underwriters. So that's a little bit about what I do and who I am. But what is Lola? So let's get down to the grind here. We guide individuals, families, and businesses before and after the loss of a loved one. We help people with time of loss help, preparing your family for the unexpected through our forms plans. We also help business owners through forms plans with protocols, making sure that in the event something happens unexpectedly, they've got their protocols in place to shut down their business temporarily due to a disability or the loss of life, and the CEO of the company, and they're having to pivot to decide whether to stay in business or sell the business. So we work through that with business owners. We also offer our benefits, our Lola benefit through corporate employers, and we have employer paid options and voluntary options, and I'll share a little bit more about that later on. And then finally, we have a Lola certification, which is how we kind of are growing our vision. So when I first started Loss of Life Advocates, I started it because in 2014, my dad and my husband died 63 days apart. My dad was extremely prepared. He had all of his affairs in order. He had all the conversations. My dad always had plans. Like you knew what his A plan, B plan, C plan was. Whereas the day that we buried my dad in the summer of 2014, my husband said he didn't feel good. And roughly 50 days later, he passed away from cancer, and it was really quick. And Carl was not a planner. He was a business owner, a trial lawyer. And if you know a lawyer, walk in their office and you can automatically see how disorganized they are. So I had a lot of work on my hands to do. And it took about 840 days to close out my husband's estate. And from 2014 to 2016, I actually kind of started seeing that there were gaps in areas for support. And what I kept looking for, I couldn't find. So I started thinking about this concept, and it's new. And it took me a while to kind of get people to wrap their brains around what we do, how we do it, where we fit in. Financial advisors would tell me, well, we already do that. We help families. And I'm like, well, do you go clean out the closet and clean out the business and walk the family through the funeral process and witness a body with them? Do you grieve with them? Do you help them get to the other side so they can see that they can move on? And they would go, no, we don't do that. So it's like, okay, well, then we don't do the same thing. And the funeral people would say, directors would say, well, we do what you do. And I say, yeah, but once the family member's been taking care of the loved one, you tell the family you'll call as soon as the death certificates are ready. And it's kind of like falling off a cliff for a family, because they're like, now what do we do? Who do we go to? So that's what Lola is in a nutshell. And that's what we created. But that was 2019. Let's face it, 2020, I had the best first quarter I've had in my company's history. I thought I was on a really good trajectory. And then in 2020, March 12th, I can remember driving out of Laredo, Texas, and the city was closing behind me. It was a weird feeling. They were like, we're shutting down. COVID is here. And everybody was, this virus that we didn't know anything about. And it took us only 30 days for businesses and business owners and restaurants and everything that we knew that was back then normal to shut down and to close. And the very thing that we needed as small businesses was connection, and we weren't able to do that. And so we all started kind of becoming paralyzed. And I mean, I'll be honest, this was me. I was on the ground. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I've invested all this money in my business, and I've got people that have invested in my business, advocates. I've got partners that have invested in me, referring people to them. How am I going to do this? And I will tell you that the two people that came to mind and helped me the most were through Lift Fund, actually, and through the Women's Business Accelerator program. And that was my banker at Frost Bank, because I'd gone through a Frost Bank small business accelerator, and they assigned me a banker. And my banker and his boss knew everything about my business. They had come to my office, they had looked at my plans, they had talked to me about everything that I did. And so slowly but surely, as I was frozen in time, I started to realize that, I needed to pivot. I needed to get up off the ground. I needed to figure out what I was going to do. And I would say the second person was my CPA, because he was telling me exactly what I needed to do. And that was when do we file taxes? Do we not file taxes? So those two people individually helped me. And there was a third silent partner in that equation, and that was my network. And those were the people that I'd met, whether it was through the Women's Business Accelerator program, through coaching, through different organizations. That network in itself helped me figure out as a small business owner that I could potentially get through this. And so we all started talking about, well, what are you doing, and what is EIDL, and what is PPP, and do you take out the loan? Do you create more debt against your business? And by having those three really strong relationships, I was able to kind of get to the other side and see that all I needed to do was get creative. So I got off the ground and I put my superwoman cape on, as my kids call me, and I started looking at all the challenges, and I started to create new ideas, and I started looking at what are my challenges and problems. What do people need? We're in a crisis. Do I pay my taxes now? Do I push them off and to do an extension? Looking at my competition in the area that I was in, and not so much lobbying, but I had to go to work for myself and remind people that I was still there so that I could get to the finish line of this period of time that just seemed so overwhelming. So we pivoted and we stretched as an organization in new ways. We started to look at, things that people needed. We started listening to the needs of others. So I dived into my trusted partners. I have about 27 trusted partners in various industries, whether it's, insurance, law, general practice law, criminal law, family law, real estate agents, home liquidators, people that will buy homes to take the investment off of somebody's hands because they can't afford the mortgage payments anymore. We have movers. We have what we call our pack in and pack out business that one of my advocates created through this. So a lot of partners that we started talking to our financial advisors and saying, what are your fears? What do you need? And one of the first things was, because of COVID, people were going into the hospital without a will, without paperwork, without anybody to be their advocate and voice what their medical decisions would be if they were put on a ventilator. Do you put them on a ventilator? Do you not put them on a ventilator? And so we immediately partnered with Ken's TV, Great Day SA here in San Antonio, and our lawyers came to our heed, and we were able to put together a handwritten form that people could kind of use as a guide to write a handwritten will until they could get to an attorney. And our attorneys would be able to review this online for them through a Zoom call for free and tell them that in the event something happened, until they could get a valid will, in the state of Texas through an attorney's office, and knowing that the handwritten will was enough. We always encourage our families to go and get a will package done with any of our partners that are on our attorney platform. So we really started talking about things with our trusted partners. We started looking at, what do the financial advisors need? Well, our financial advisors, and really the PAX group was one of the first ones that came to me, Daryl Lyons, and said, hey, I've got all these people that work underneath me, but they don't know how to talk to people about grief. How do we talk to them about death and dying? How do we start this conversation? So we started putting training programs together for our financial advisors to help them through part of the grief recovery method, and talking with somebody that's coming to them that hasn't had a normal transition of life for their loved ones. And then we also stretched into working with our funeral partners and saying, okay, what are you seeing? What's the new protocols that you're having to go through in your organization when a family comes to you? Are they, obviously we're all wearing masks. Obviously you're having to do social distancing, but things changed in all these different industries that we were touching. So we really dove in and started stretching in new ways. And then we really went back to our cores. I thought, okay, what's really important? When I first started Lola, the very first thing that I wanted to do was get people prepared. So, we started talking to families and individuals about getting their affairs in order. And our forms are 205 pages. They're in a PDF downloadable format off our website, as well as fillable. And that's coming soon because we're working on that project currently right now. But we wanted to get families and individuals prepared so that in the event they did go in to the hospital, or they got sick, or something happened to them, that their family knew where their paperwork was. Where are your passwords? Who's going to take care of the animals? Who's going to water your pets, pipes, and plants? I always think of the 3 Ps, but it's, who's going to take care of your affairs while you're in the hospital if you can't speak for yourself. So we started really kind of drilling down on making sure that people were prepared. And then again, we went back to our business protocol plan and started working with business owners who had gone through our plan and saying, how did our business protocol plan work for you? And we were really happy when business owners said, 75% of your plan guided me all the way through. The other 25% I had to kind of figure out on my own. So it was really a good success for us to be able to take that data and be able to apply it towards new businesses and say, okay, how can we help you make sure that you have all these businesses, your protocols in place in the event you have to shut down? That new word furlough came into play, and it was like, oh my gosh, what is this word? And people were coming to us, what is furlough? I'm laid off. Do I file for unemployment? So we were actually getting a lot of people coming to us on a consultative basis. And then, of course, the thing that came to most prevalence for us was our By Hours Not Flowers packages, which was our concierge time of loss. And this became more and more prevalent with our families and our nurses and our hospitals, hospice companies, through our partnership with ACOG, Alamo Area Council of Government, here in San Antonio, that families needed the walkthrough about, okay, what's going to happen? So we started selling our packages of 5 hours for 200. It's an extremely low price point. And this year in 2021, we've raised that to 300 for 5 hours. But during this COVID time, when people were really suffering through what's going to happen, we were able to walk a family through, they're going to go off a ventilator into palliative care. What is palliative care? Educate them on that, hospice, and then make sure that they're prepared for the funeral home and what comes after that. So our concierge plan became a little bit more needed in our community. And we were just listening. What were people wanting and needing so much from us? So 2020, we get to the end of 2020 and I'm thinking, okay, I really got to be really tight about what packages that we're going to offer in our products. And so these are just a few, and we have added a few. And so we're stretching a little bit more again because we're listening to what the needs are. We have our family and business protocol plans, which are the forms that are downloadable on our website. We lowered our pricing on that to make it affordable for anybody. We offer concierge grief consultation, and I actually had a coach that walked me through setting up packages for families so that they could get the 5 hours for 200, but if they needed more hours, what did that look like? We offered a nonprofit fundraising plan because we realized that nonprofits cannot raise money right now. They're kind of paralyzed as well. So we have a product to where the nonprofits can send out an email to their supporters, and for $99, their supporters get the individual family plan, a downloadable version, and then $25 of that goes back to their nonprofit. So it's a way to get your membership, your supporters prepared. We have videos that walk people through that, and then they get an advocate that can help them with any time of loss or any questions. We do Zoom calls. And then we have our first responder package, which is for our nurses, our ambulance technicians, hospice workers. And that is basically the same thing as the nonprofit, except the $25. We are going to rotate 4 quarterly nonprofits each quarter so that they get to pick a nonprofit that would get their $25. And then our corporate packages, we had more employers coming to us and saying, we just can't go to an employee during this COVID time and tell them they need mental health help. So we are actually that bridge and that gap for employers and their HR departments to be able to dive in and say, hey, we've got this situation. We're really not sure what it is. We don't want to know everything, but can you talk to them? And here are our benefits. Can you talk them into or get them guided over to their mental health benefit and see if that's what they need? So we started listening to what our employers needed in the community. And so we've been working with First Mark Credit Union. We've done work with SWBC. We're trying to do work with Frost Bank right now. So that's kind of on my goal list for this year. But the employers that are coming to us and the brokers that are coming to us are telling us what they're needing because they're in a new zone of time with Zoom calls, and they're not being able to touch people and really read that physical body language that they usually get from having employees in their offices. ACOG, of course, we continue to give our caregivers support that they need through the forums and through guidance through the end of life transition, hospice and palliative care, and afterwards, and getting them to attorneys for probate and educating them on that as well. We still have our certified advocate program, and that's how we're growing our advocates. It's a decision that I made that I didn't want to have employees. I wanted to have people that could have their own stand-up business. And so we're growing that. And currently we have 15 advocates, including myself, throughout San Antonio in South Texas. And we're going to grow one into Houston. That she'll be Houston, Dallas. My sister is in Dallas that leads our Lola products up there, as well as we have one in Bernie that's coming in, and then another one in San Antonio in the next month. And then the last thing is our tragic loss representation. And this came through somebody calling me from Mount Vernon, Washington. So hiccups to my business, what did they look like? I actually had, I'd never done this before, but I had somebody come to me and say, my nephew was tragically killed in a house fire in Mount Vernon, Washington. And for me, the biggest hiccup I had was the power of touch. So important to me and what I do. I really felt I needed to be in a room. It was something, a hurdle that I was jumping. And for the first time, I was able to serve a family from San Antonio to Mount Vernon, Washington, representing them with Farmers Insurance. The uncle hired me on the spot and said, I don't want anybody talking to my family. You're it. And I represented them to medical examiners, firefighters, investigators, and 5 different farmers agents. And that started in September, and I'm still representing them. So it's a new twist of what's coming to me and what's needed, that families need to have that support at the most tragic of times. So those are our new 2020 product offerings. And here's me sitting in one of my favorite places. It sounds kind of creepy, but I go to the cemetery and I walk cemeteries for families. And here's what I've done. I've made a decision that I've just got to stop sometimes and listen to what people need, and they'll tell me what exactly we're supposed to be doing. And that's what I learned in 2020, was to really not get so paralyzed, get up off the ground and start leading the charge and not being afraid to make mistakes, but more importantly, try to put packaging and products out there that people need during a really uncertain time. We all know that over 400,000 small businesses did not make it through this crisis, but at Loss of Life Advocates, we're here to help. And that is the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Esther.
I tried to be quick.
That's fine. Let me see. I don't see any comments on Facebook. I don't know if anybody in here has any comments. You can go ahead and unmute yourself for the people on the Zoom. And on Facebook, if you have any comments, you can just write them down and I'll post them or relate them to Esther here.
Thank you. I know I kind of went a little long, so I want to give Don some time to do his presentation.
Yeah, I had a quick question. We just went through this actually a couple of times. So my mother's husband passed away in November, actually on their anniversary day. He passed away from COVID-19. How long does the how long do you see the process is typically 6 months, a year to get everything sorted out? I mean, we just went through the initial phase of probate court. He did not have a will, and there's still stuff that we're trying to chase down and figure out, my sister and I, and bank accounts. We've got all that stuff sorted out now, but yeah, it's a huge process. So how long have you seen that process typically take?
If you're a family that's kind of on top of it, it can take about 6 to 8 months. Because if there's a home, you've got to, figure out who's going to take what, who wants the family portraits, who wants this, I've been working with families, and that was what the average was before COVID. I've actually started getting more and more families now coming to me 90 days and 6 months after losing their loved ones. So we're coming up on that 1 year mark with COVID, right? So I started getting people saying, well, what do I do with my dad's house? A lot of people came in December and January because in Texas we have our property taxes due. And so at the end of January, and so families started realizing that, oh, wow, if I have to pay this, they didn't realize they had that bill. So we had a lot of our VIP investment people were going in and evaluating homes and trying to buy them as quick as they could from families so they didn't have to pay the property taxes. But normally I think, for some people that have a very simple estate, it can be as quick as 90 days. And for some people that have a little bit more work that has to be done, it can take as much as, 8 months to a year. And then some people don't start until a year. And so, they kind of drag it on for themselves, so it can be kind of, I can come in at a year and go, well, they've gone through the grief for the most part, but now we're going to have to get down to the work to get things done. So it varies. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah.
Anybody else? I know Zan and Alba and Adele, I said a lot of words, so you probably saw more about Lola today than you wanted to. And I think we lost Daniela.
No, I'm here.
I was like,
I don't want to like how you talk and then you interrupt someone. I wanted to ask you what you wanted to get out of today. Like if you have any like specific feedback you were looking for right now, what type of feedback you're trying to receive from the community or from your peers?
For me, it's I would love to get the feedback on the products, and, am I on target, of what people need? I listed out the products and, do we have too many, going into this year, we're a little bit more targeted with who we want to work with. Like cancer doctors, that's a big drive for us. But, I don't know that if anybody out there that's other business owners are looking at this and saying, wow, you should really just skinny down your products, or, maybe don't just shelf these three and focus on these right now. It's important that, because when you're growing, you just tend to get in that vacuum of, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I have to be really careful because people will love to give me ideas, oh, you should do this, or, oh, you should do that. And so it really is kind of like listening to it and wanting the other business owners, ideas on, maybe you should just focus on these three for the first quarter, and then the next quarter focus on these three. Because I'm a solo business owner. I have advocates and I have partners, but at the end of the day, it's probably 1.5 of me that run my whole business. So it can be a little overwhelming. And so I just try to keep it as streamlined as possible, and having other business owners say, you're on track based on being here, which almost 2 years ago. I was just really launching Lola, and getting the products out, and now they've grown due to COVID.
Say, this is Daniela again for folks just listening, that like it doesn't mean that you have to skinny them down. Like if you've seen an opportunity, like you're also in a testing area of seeing what works and what's going to get you, because at the end of the day you're a business, right? Like you want to make sure that you're spending your time on what's going to bring you in revenue and what's the need at the time, or what's the bigger need, right? You're reaching more people. But maybe when it depends, like if you're presenting to a stakeholder or somebody that might be investing, maybe you want to not list everything, because it sounds like you're doing it all, right?
Yeah.
So maybe make it as seem like, oh well, we do all these kinds of services, we're really big on these 2 or these 3, like
Okay.
it's just because people might get overwhelmed, like, okay, well, she does everything, and
Right. And I'm really
right.
lucky. I have a great team that I can, I've learned how to get more streamlined with, in passing off. And I'll use the example of January, I had pneumonia, and so I was, I couldn't work. And so I had to, for the first time, rely on a team. And there were a lot of like, what do I do? Like, because we just all had a rough 2020 year, so I was really lucky that, I had somebody like Zan that's a chaplain with hospice, and Alba who's been in HR, and my sister who's had an extensive background with the government. So helping me through those, that month, because I really did lose a month of time. And that was a real eye awakener for me as a business owner. Like, I can't be the only person to do this. So I need to be able to um, delegate some of the processes.
Hi, this is Alex. So I was listening to your presentation, and you're providing a very very interesting set of services, and very I guess timely due to the situation we're in right now. And I know you're looking for, well, do I have too many services or not enough? What The only thought crosses my mind is keep up with that feedback and continue to receive that feedback, or even solicit it. And after that period of time, you can come back and ask. And it's like, what services were most valuable, or you found most helpful? Which ones did you feel like weren't that weren't as valuable? And if you can capture that, it can help you to decide, okay, what are the services that everyone, said that this is valuable, this is important, and the ones that, you're not getting a lot of feedback on, other than, well, it was nice. And that might be able to help you. And if you keep that feedback, or at least keep a stream of feedback coming in, that can help you as you're moving forward, and make sure that the services you have are the right ones. Because I think the space you're in is very very different from a business. So um, your value is not, well, you're trying to be effective and efficient, but you're also in a space where you're helping people with grief. So it's a little bit different, and you can't be too focused on, well, save money in that situation. So I would just say keep with that feedback, so that it gives you that sense of direction of, what's working, what's not working.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Mhm.
There was a comment on Facebook. I posted in the chat. I don't know if you can see it, Esther. Ernesto said, for solo photographers, videographers, is this, maybe he tuned in a little late. Is this worth setting up a detailed plan involving the business? It seems it's just end, right? Like this just end, right? Would someone be liable to fulfill wedding contracts still in place? I don't know if that,
Yeah,
if you
so
can.
it looks like there's 2 different answers there. So I would say that having a detailed plan in place is good through our business protocol plan, or your individual plan, whichever, being a solo practitioner. But also, I would tell you that the first thing I did, the first year of Lola, all I did was have my contracts created, branding, contracts, messaging. And I think that in itself caught a lot of people off guard during COVID, was not having contracts in place, because it becomes really effective when you can't be in a room shaking hands with somebody and saying, yes, I want to buy your product. So having an attorney to talk to about setting up a simple contract, is something that is worth the time to protect you in the event you do have a client that backs out of an agreement because of weddings. And we know that that's changed. The whole wedding for everything has changed. We can't be in person for a lot of it. But I'm happy to provide a referral to one of our attorneys that does contracts to help get that set up in place. It'll create a lot of success for you in the end. Kitty.
No, he was ready to go. I told him he can't present today, but maybe next time.
Anybody else has any questions? Either I don't see anything else on Facebook, but maybe here if you want to unmute yourself or drop it in the chat. Any comments?
This is Elba from Lola. I just wanted to make one comment that Esther touched on, which was about her creating more targeted approach, more targeted, initiatives this year. It's kind of streamlined, and I think it's evolved over the 4 years and going into her 5th year. So as an advocate, I really am excited about what this year will bring. And I think that will help immensely. And I think the feedback from Alex about, taking time to assess, along the way and get more feedback and really understand if it's been, and if it really has enhanced the business, or if it's taken away, or if there's still a gap. I think that certainly is a great, way to move forward. But I think the targeted approach that we're taking this year that Esther has kind of evolved to, I think will produce, dividends for us, for Lola.
Thank you, Alba.
Yeah, quick question. Do you guys do like follow-up surveys of the families that you help?
Yeah, we're just, to answer your question, no, I've never done a survey, but that came out with the hospice palliative nurses that I work with to do I usually personally do like a 30, 60, 90 day, 6 month, 1 year with clients going through the time of loss. But the nurses are the ones that really kind of said it'd be really good if you had a more targeted approach on the surveys to see what's working versus what's not working. I mean, I will tell you that of all the products, the business protocol plan is probably the one at the bottom because business owners don't have time. We're just so busy that it's like, I just don't have time to do this. The individual plan, by all means, and the time of loss are up there because that's what's happening. People are needing that right now. They're seeing the need. So it's definitely, when I look at 1 and 2, and then the corporate plan of employers coming to us and saying, we don't want to tell somebody you need mental health help. So can you help us with that transition? So I would say those 3 are the top, the ones that we get a lot of traction on.
Yeah, I think the surveys introducing that will give you a better perspective, and even more like people might feel more comfortable just sharing with you their thoughts or improvements that they think, because they might like you and love you and everything that you do for them, but maybe they had a bad experience, or they had a comment how you could improve some of the services, right? And that survey just makes it easier for them to open up for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions or comments? And I think we're about on time, cutting into some of Dawn's time. So thank you, Esther, so much. Thank you, everyone, for the comments. I tagged her on the Facebook, so you can find her. If you have more questions for her or for her team, you can look for her, Loss of Life Advocates. And we're going to get started with Dawn. So thank you, Esther, so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Let me share my screen and just a moment here. All right. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes, we can.
All right. Let me Okay, so yeah, my name is Don Bahlman. Thank you so much, Danielle. I really appreciate your time and the invite to come on and just kind of share what we're doing. My background is has really come from design and technology, and as a product designer for many years, and working on some pretty high profile projects and with some companies like IBM, NASA, the Port of Rotterdam, Mayo Clinic. So really have been very, very blessed to have worked with some great people and great projects, and just kind of put everything in my bag, when I have that experience. So I'm really thankful for that. So that has really, in a nutshell, what I do is I pull all the pieces and the people and resources together, and I make stuff. That's essentially what I do. So that's what I've done with iOpen. In 2016, we formalized the company late 2016, and uh, I'd like to share that with you guys and just get your feedback. So our mission is really to bring safety and security to hotels, staff, and their guests. So as we began, we really started, there we go. We really started, with this idea that we were doing automation for hotels, and we would make everyone's life better, right? This is the classic startup scenario. You have a great idea, we're going to make everyone's life better, and we're all going to, reap the benefits. Somewhere in the middle, that's real life, right? And so that's what happened to us. And so in this path that we went through, this journey, we literally had one of our neighbors come in and look at what we were doing. She's an ER surgeon, and at the time she was traveling all over the country. So she's like, Don, this is nice. The automation technology is nice, but what I really want to know when I open the door to my hotel, I really want to know no one is inside and that I'm safe. And that just T-boned me. That hit me like a truck, and really I couldn't get away from that. So essentially in the process is where literally our why walked in to our office, and in 2019 we made a huge pivot. So my wife, who's also here, co-founder with her, she began to do research, and she found that 90% of women business travelers didn't feel safe when they traveled. And along with that, of course, now we have COVID. So COVID is the great, unseen threat, and we're figuring out how to deal with COVID at the moment. All of us. And then, of course, the unexpected, and this is a big one for me, is when you get that knock on the door and housekeeping, and of course they're doing their job. They typically open the door right after they knock. I'm always, if I'm in the room, I'm always in the middle of something like this gentleman here. So it's like a huge interruption. So we figured out how we can help. Essentially, we're building a scalable, robust system for awareness. And I think that the awareness part of this is the key part. For housekeeping, for the hotel, if they knew that someone was in the room when they knocked, they would wait. And if they know that no one is in the room, they can still knock politely, but then enter the room feeling confident that no one is in the room, do their cleaning, do the sanitizing for COVID, and then go on to the next room. They can also plan their route if they know which rooms currently have guests and which rooms don't. So it optimizes that process on the side of the hotel. As a guest, we also want to share this with you guys, with all of us. All of us have been guests. So when you're out for the day, now you know that your room is secure at all times. It's just basically like your smart home. A lot of us have rings on our door, and so now we know the status of our room, just like we know our smart home. So for guests, a little bit more about that. We're trying to build this as seamless as possible. So there's really no there's no apps to download. There's no trying to find your app. Oh, what was the name of that? None of that. It just basically, you check into the hotel, you opt in, you'll get a text message. Yes, I want to use Safe Stay, and we're calling the product Safe Stay 365. And you get it, and you can see your room status for the duration of your hotel stay. And when you check out, it just stops giving you that insight. So it's very seamless and very automated, and that's our goal. So what does it look like? Essentially, in the room, we put sensors. We're basing our sensors on a PIR system, so that's passive infrared. So that means no outlines, no cameras, no heat maps. It's super, super private. We have that at the top of our list, to that guest privacy. So and you can see on the right, that's essentially what we see. We can't see movement in the room. We only know that there is someone there or there's not someone there. So for the hotel, they can also see if a room is occupied, we gray that room out. That's your private area, right? That's the guest private space. And then if the room is unoccupied, we let the hotel know. For example, what's the temperature in the room? Or what's the humidity in the room? Do they need to go check on something? Can they dial down that temperature or up into that range that makes it cost effective for them? And so, you know, they essentially, our goal is to give them the lay of the land at a glance, right? That's the key goal here. So the 4 benefits that we're really targeting are, of course, that guest experience, the safety factor, and the safety factor on the hotel staff, sustainability. So now we can really keep an eye on the energy that's being used. Something like 70% of hotel costs come from room usage, like air conditioning and heating and lights and things like that. So TVs left on. So that's a real big issue. We all went through that with the stress on our grid, you know, just last week from the winter storm. And again, we have a first responder aspect as well. So this really, you know, if the building has issues, if there's a water leak or if there's a gas leak and first responders show up and they have to make sure the building is clear, they can see at a glance which rooms are, you know, have guests and which rooms are vacant, and they can adjust accordingly. And we feel that this is going to shave off seconds and minutes of their response time and clearing the building, and really could save lives. So again, you know, our target is really, we're upping the level of personalization. So it's just like your own, you know, short-term smart home. When you're away, now you can see your hotel room and the status, and you know it's safe and secure. You know, savings like temperature and also comfort like humidity. We now are beginning to understand that humidity is a huge factor in COVID-19, stopping COVID-19. So, and again, for the hotel staff, providing panic buttons and just if they need help, if the room is like extra messy, they can just hit that panic button and get help. And this works with existing smart rooms. So we're not really competing with the technology out there. This is something brand new. And so we're looking at this as complementing what's there and what's not there. So where we need help, really, we got hit really hard last year for COVID-19. We had a lot of momentum going into 2020. And then all of a sudden, everything stopped. You know, hotels were pretty much at ground zero, even worse than airlines. Many of the hotels have been decimated. You know, one of our board members is retired CEO, and his former company literally got decimated. Their New York office went from like over 300 people down to about 30. Inside a month. So this has really hit the hotel industry very hard. So we do think that things are recovering and things are, looking better right now. And so I think 2021 is going to be a pretty good year for us. We're just like Esther, we're at that 5-year mark. We've survived COVID. And so now that's kind of where we're at. So anyone who could make introductions to like hotels, high rises, vacation rentals, Airbnbs, maybe in some instances, apartments. Anyone who has any leads or can introduce us to anyone, that would be super helpful. Any technology developers, specifically in IoT, which is Internet of Things, or AI, that would be helpful. And of course, any advisors, we're always open to business advisors and hospitality advisors. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. This is what we're doing. I'd love for you guys to take our survey, that little QR code over there. Yeah, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
That's super innovative, I have to tell you. Like I'm not a geek, and I can barely do my Apple, remote. And I'm not sure if my sister, she traveled with the EPA for 30 years. But the thought that came to my head was, apartment complexes, when you go and rent an apartment, and or even apartment complexes, so they know where it's vacant versus but I feel like those people that work in apartments are not safe, so that might be something that's to expand to. But I just recently put in a meeting request with Graham Weston here in San Antonio. He's got a brilliant mind. He was, Rackspace, one of the Rackspace founders, and that might be somebody that you can maybe have an appointment with to say, because he's developing, him and his brother have a development company here in San Antonio, and they're buying up all the downtown businesses and buildings. And I could be corrected, but it might be a good connection to present your idea to him, because I feel like as a developer, he might be somebody good for you to connect with. And then hotels, I mean, it's just start with the boutique ones. Find the ones that are the smaller ones. That the owners of Mission Park Funeral Homes in San Antonio own the Fairmont Hotel here in San Antonio. So I'd be happy just to at least make that connection for you on that from a personal level.
Thank you so much, Esther. That is awesome. Yeah, I'd love to talk with those guys. Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Dawn, have you ever offered like to put it in some rooms, like as a pilot for hotels?
Yes, absolutely. No, I kind of skipped over that, but that's exactly what we're doing this year. So we're offering this free for 90 days as a pilot, 10 to 20 rooms as a test, and we're still working on it on our side too, as far as the software development and how it actually interacts and improving all that. But yeah, the pilot is absolutely free. That's really what we're looking for. And we're also kind of throwing out possibility of working with hotels, like for 2021, if they jump in now, we'll do that 90-day plus till the end of 2021 for free. So yeah, I mean, we have some pretty good incentives. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, I think maybe if you come in and be like, hey, can we pilot? You'll see the benefits of either like the power saving or just staff efficiency of not wasting time, like going into rooms that are not empty or vacant or whatever. But maybe I could also bring in some like see how it works, and then maybe they don't like the product and keep it.
Yeah, totally. And this is ironically the challenge. A lot of hotels don't necessarily have that much time because they're short-staffed. Everybody is short-staffed. And one of the things that our system can do is literally give you eyes on your property while maintaining absolute privacy for your guests. So it's really kind of an automated glance at where things at, okay, and so yeah. Yeah, we're definitely talking to those hotels, and And so we're actually right there in the process of building that list of pilots and hotels who are going to be involved. So I think that's the biggest challenge that I've seen and heard from hotels right now, is just that everybody's super busy, super short staffed. There's no time for anything, but this can actually help. So thank you for that.
Any other comments or questions? We still have 6 more minutes here.
Hey Don, this is Alex. I just had a question. I know your application is designed for the hotels, living spaces, but I saw that you said something about measuring humidity. Have you thought about other applications where maybe a space needs to where the temperature, humidity have to be controlled? I don't know, for storage or something. It's just something that I thought of. They may be very unique clientele, but if they need to protect items within a storage space and humidity and temperature is an issue, is that something you've considered or just thought of?
No, that's great. Thank you, Alex. We actually did some testing. Gosh, it's been, I think it was towards the end of 2019 at a restaurant. And so restaurants, we can definitely help, for the food storage, just as you said. And, they have these huge freezers, and a lot of those things are just like old school. You don't know if they're working, if they go out in the middle of the night, and so, yeah, we can definitely work with restaurants, with any kind of storage facility. One thing that I thought was very interesting, I had a discussion last year with the state of Texas with all the hurricanes coming in. And I was like, we can help with this. We can detect in real time if, let's say, a building, not necessarily a hotel, but a building becomes compromised. And let's say some of the windows get blown out. We can detect if that happens, when that happens. So the property owners are more aware. And so again, first responders are more aware if they have like a high-rise apartment or something like that, and you start getting these warnings, then they know, well, there's people in there and we need to be ready to go help. So yeah, I think the core system is basically remote monitoring, but our main focus is on hotels. But yeah, it's flexible enough to where we can, look at other business verticals. So
Yeah, it's
great question.
just based on how you have it designed, it doesn't look like you would have to do too much to utilize it in different spaces. So
Yeah, thank you for that. It's yeah, definitely. But just for getting started this year, or well, not started, but really getting into the market, our main focus is really that hotel market, and then probably close verticals would be like apartments, restaurants, things like that would go around that. Our technology works best with dense population. So a lot of people in areas, that's where it really works best.
okay, all right.
Thank you. Thanks, Alex. Anyone else? Anything else? Maybe I asked my wife to say a few words. She's actually in Taiwan. She dropped in and make sure I'm working. So you can say hi.
Yeah. So I just kind of have some comments kind of about our technology. Is basically is 5G global ready, and they have the sensors got 24-hour battery backup just in case the building the power went out. So they still can detect the data, so you never lose the data. And also no download, so that's very huge benefit for all the guests. They really, people just don't want just have one extra app on my phone. So that's kind of huge benefit for the guests as well. So when we started the business and I interviewed several people, not a lot, just kind of handful of people. They just tell me a lot of amazing story. So if you have some time, just check out our website. iopeninnovation.com. They have really just unbelievable story on our website. So just check it out. Really just those stories are true stories. So just amazing. So that's how come we can protect kind of double booking stuff, so you will make sure there's no one in your room. So yeah, that's pretty, I have to brag about my husband. It's pretty good technology.
You can just see, I know we're out of time, but that's the actual web app. So there's no app. That's what it looks like. The door opens and then you will get a text message. That icon will change here in just a second. So the system, see, that took what, 10 seconds. So it's very fast. This is going through our own system. We bring, and there's the text message. And then you just tap on that, you can see what's going on in your room. So we bring our own autonomous network, our own, everything is portable. It's literally like no touch, 5 minutes or less per room to install. So just easy drop in. We never touch the Wi-Fi for the hotel. Yeah. So, and like Jessica said, in the case of like power outage, like we all just went through last week, our system is good for 24 hours. It still works. So.
I kind of feel like, having come off the steep freeze that we were in Texas, one of my biggest concerns was, and this is more, it just takes it totally down a different rabbit hole. But I was incredibly concerned about our seniors and the people that had disabilities that were in their homes, freezing, didn't know what to do. They didn't have access to communication. And generally the people that work with them are the Meals on Wheels people that go out and provide food or their services, right? And I was like, we're going to find people that just were frozen to death, unfortunately, through hypothermia. But just kind of as having my dad traveled a lot. And so even for me to be a daughter, to be like, oh, my dad made it to the hotel. He's there. He's safe. Even being able to share that technology to say, that he's okay. He's where he's supposed to be. Just seems like it's a different rabbit hole altogether, but I could see the potential for whether you eventually do a partnership with like an ADT or some type of security service where people can, they can know that, there's somebody in that home. And I know that's big brotherish to a lot of people, but I have a daughter. I'd be, I would be so happy if I knew that she was safe and I didn't have to call her and say, call her a million times, answer your phone. I'm a true Hispanic mom where I'm like, you must be dad, you're in a ditch. But so it's kind of one of those like, answer the phone. So, but if I had something that was shareable, like I'm safe, I'm good, I'm where I'm supposed to be. But that's like, I can see your idea taking a totally different trajectory. So being open to some of that as well, because, the hotels are one thing, but if that's something that's not opening up for you right now, maybe pivoting a little to, some of the other things that you were talking about.
Yeah, that's great input. I really appreciate that. We've actually looked at university dorms as well, because those parents, they're paying for that. They're like, where's my kid? Where you should be in there studying. So, but yeah, I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Don. Thank you, Jessica,
Thank you.
for coming in, and thank you everyone for tuning in. We're out of time, but appreciate everyone, and we'll be back next month. So if you're interested in presenting, you can email us or just go to 1millioncups.com/present. You can present here and you can present in other communities outside of San Antonio. So it's just a great opportunity. But thank you, Esther and Don, for being here, and hope to catch everyone next month. But
Thank you, Daniela.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Daniela.